Welcome to our A-Train Station help video series. And in this help video, we're going to cover live betting. And just as a forewarning, our live betting page is in its early stages. Think of it as a beta version, and think of me as a beta live better because I am not a deeply experienced or knowledgeable live bettor by any stretch. However, that said, I do know how this page works and is intended. And so I want to walk you through what we have today as of September 2024, so that you can at least know what the pieces of the page do as you're developing your live betting strategy. So keep in mind, this is not a strategy video. This is all about the functionality on A-Train Station, and we'll walk through how this page works and some of the key things that we're doing that help elevate our live betting product above the other options in the marketplace. So when we come to this is from clicking on the live button on your A-Train Station. Okay, you come here right now. We're right before football gets started, and so there's some Major League Baseball games which we can look at from a live perspective. And we'll kind of just use this for baseball tonight. There's no football yet because I want to get this game, or I want to get this video out before football starts, before NFL football starts. So this is the best we can do at the moment. When you get into the live events screen, you're going to see a list of everything that we have live betting enabled for. And it's typically baseball, football. We'll have some other major sports coming, tennis, but basketball, hockey, those are all going to be the kind of marquee things that we're supporting live betting. What you will also see is games that we have upcoming later tonight that are going to be live betting but haven't started yet. You can have a link to the pregame page. So this is where you would bet your pregame bets. This link, until it goes to live betting, will take you to that pregame page. Okay, so that's the key thing to know on this. You get the game information on various things, and you can kind of just overview it here. Right now, as it stands today, we do one game at a time for live betting. That will change over time. We will do something that's a little bit more akin to our pregame page, where it kind of brings in every great play there is. The problem with live betting is that it moves so fast, trying to keep track of one game is difficult, let alone many games. And if you are trying to get the best play and then you're going to navigate to a sports book and doing it like you would positive EV betting, it's just going to be a bad experience. You're not going to have time to navigate to a book and go to the individual bet page for that game and find the live bet and find it and get it in. It's already changed. And so that's where we really want to focus our energies on live betting. When you are sitting down, focusing on one game, probably watching that game, but definitely focusing on that game. What we find is that definitely when you're watching a game, it's ideal to have as short of a delay as possible. Over-the-air television generally is the best option. We've also found when you're looking at the stats or the play-by-play in various scoreboard apps or whatever, we found the score is as fast as they get as far as updates in kind of a game information play-by-play, not a broadcast, but a play-by-play. So you can use that as well. And that's really important to have up. We'll be building our own in as part of our live betting interface at some point as well. But for now, bring up some sort of scoreboard app, bring up the game if you can watch it. And obviously, if you have YouTube TV or whatever, you're going to be on a little bit of a delay. It's still worth having on, even though your betting might be a play or two in the future compared to where the broadcast is for you. It's still worth having that. And besides, it's also a lot of fun. And that's something that we do in our members chat. We often have a game that we're all live betting, maybe like Thursday Night Football. Just saying, that's a good time for us to all sit down, get into that members chat, and share information with one another, just talking as we're all live betting that game. Okay, so tonight, let's look at this New York Yankees and Texas Rangers game. It started at 7:05 Central Time Zone. We're going to click into it, and then this is our main page for live betting. You see, it looks something like our pregame page, looks something kind of like our wagers page in some cases. But the key to this is to know certain things are working the exact same way that you might see them on the pregame page. And so in this case, I like to use my Power Blend, which is one where we have kind of a broad-based market view, but we amp up the sharp books to give them a little bit more leverage in that rating. I highly advise when you're doing live betting, get a book set or a weighting set that has a lot of stuff in it. The book set, you can be more targeted, but the weighting set, you want to have as many books with at least a vote as possible, because you're going to want to be looking at whatever's out there a lot more than you typically would in a pregame setting. So I'm going to go power blend, and I'm going to use we'll just use my live betting selection here. So that's a collection of books that I like to use when I'm live betting. So you can set those just like you would for your weightings in your books anyway. So power blend, again, a market-based view. What you'll see is that we have a search. So if you want to say, I only want to look at spread bets, I could type in spread, and you can see now in this list, you see spreads and first 5 inning spreads, and they're coming in like in whatever order. Right now, it's ordered by weight by default. I generally will like to change that, but we'll get to that in a second. So the search works just like it does on the pregame page. Very powerful. You don't have to hit apply. It just kind of instantly does it. Okay. If I want to look at ones that are only lines that I can play at, I can select that. A 2-line display is what it sounds like. We'll come back to these after we cover all of the data in here, because that's going to be really important. So you know what? Let's do that before we go into all of these, because some of these are fairly evident. And certainly once we cover what's going on in this, I think you'll understand what these search criteria and filter criteria are a little bit better. Okay. So what we have in this very busy, admittedly, but very powerful display is, first off, we have the 2 sides, right? So in this case, we're looking at a money line right at the top, which is great. New York Yankees, 2-way money line, Texas Rangers. So you got the Yankees on this side, the Rangers on this side. Okay. Head to head, that's simply, a money line market. The 67 here is the weighting on either side, because what you will get sometimes is single weightings that may increase this number on one side versus the other. So we just show the weighting on either side. Most of the time, you're going to see it the same, unless you're seeing a bunch of one-sided lines, or at least one-sided line. Okay. Now, like we do with stats, which you've seen on the bet details, we will kind of start at the center and radiate out. So what we try to do with this is put the most important information right at the heart. And then as you get further away, it's useful, but not as important. The first thing I'll address right off the top is these 2 on the edges are the EV percentage. And that's for a very important reason. And that is, when you are doing live betting, forget the normal positive EV strategy that you use for pregame betting. We cannot rely on sharp books the same way. Most of the books have different providers for all of their live betting information. They're completely outsourcing it in some cases. You've got to be careful about using the pregame strategy blindly for live betting. It is not going to serve you very well. So we put the EV in. We know it's interesting, but please do not use that the same way you would. What's actually much more useful is what we call the ARB percentage. Now, I want to actually sort this by the market ARB percentage, which is often what I will do initially. Okay. The ARB percentage in the middle here. Let's look at this. You know what? Let's find here we go. Spread. Yankees plus 3.5, Texas Rangers minus 3.5. Again, keep in mind, this is live betting, so these numbers are going to be changing as the actual game progresses. We will eventually take and put the game information into our header. Right now, we just have the basic starting line information. Again, use a separate score app, and you will be able to kind of follow what's happening in the game. Really important as you're live betting. Okay, the ARB percentage is a scenario where on the top, and what everything in this top row represents is these are the best lines at books you can play at. So in that book list that I have, that book set that I'm using, the live betting book set, the top rows are the ones that I can play at. And you know what? I'm just going to talk about the second inning total runs, because I think this is going to be an interesting one to look at. All right. So we have in this first one, you can see nothing here. I don't have any of my books offering this line on the second inning spread, right? On the second one, I have Fliff is one of my books, and so they're the best line on either side. They're probably the only line on either side that I actually have on the second inning total. Okay, so top is my books that I can play at. Bottom is the best in the market. What we do here, and what you can see for this John Smith RBIs, DraftKings here, it becomes very apparent when DraftKings or a book that I have is the best book in the market. We always want to show that alongside it, but you also want to know, like, oh, minus 371, that's the best I can do. Look at Potato. That's way better. This is probably not as good of a line. This is not something I want to be targeting. But when DraftKings at plus 254 is, and I see a ARB percentage of 22%, now we're talking. Now, this is probably a broken line for some reason. But that's like a too good to be true type of number. But what you'll see, and what I want to use to illustrate this here, is that when I have books that I can play at, you're going to typically see, at most, it's going to be the best in the market. Most of the time, it's going to be lower. Sometimes it's going to be negative when you see the best in the market could be an ARB of 22%. In this case, I suspect it's not a real one, but the reality is that I can't even play an actual ARB there. I'm going to get negative 6.45%. The interesting thing is, so this is the ARB return. So if I played this on both sides properly sized, I'd get a 22% return on that ARB. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. But I'd get negative 6.45 if I'm playing only at DraftKings. Well, this one is interesting because what this number actually means, it's actually the synthetic hold of the market. The synthetic hold of the market is whenever this turns negative, it's not an ARB return. It's what you would lose if you played the best side on both sides. So this is the synthetic return of the market that I can play at. This is the synthetic return of the market overall in terms of that ARB percentage. So ARB percentage is not a commonly used term, but synthetic hold of the market is. If you read Ed Miller's book, he talks about synthetic hold of a market. This becomes really important to understand as you're doing top-down betting, especially because it tells you where there may be value. So important, the most important information we think, at least as important as some things, right here in the center. So the market return, the ARB percentage, those are things that are really key. Radiating out from the center point, you have either side. So let's just work on it's the mirror image on both sides. This is the likelihood of this winning based on what we've been able to suss out from our no-vig line, which is based on whatever weighting set we're using. So in this case, we're using the power blend. I can then say, all right, plus 287 is what the no-vig line is. We believe this has a 26% return or a 26% likelihood of winning because that's what this plus 287 equates to. The minus 256 is the other side of this. So you know how the plus or minus would normally be plus or minus one number for one no-vig line? Well, in this case, we're showing the line that's relevant for it because of our worst case devigging. So you know when you have worst case devigging, you have that chasm. Well, let's look at it. We click on this. Holy moly, this line's off. So it's the second inning line. Okay, let's refresh. Live demo, baby. All right, let's refresh and let's find something that's a little bit going to be a little bit more static. Let's find or you know what? Here, what we'll do, we've talked about the ARB percentage. Let's go in here and let's do the weighting because that'll probably bring our money line right to the top, and it did. This one we'll use for the example going forward. So what you see here, right? Again, don't think positive EV betting. I have to remind you. The first thing you see is these ranges are all over the place. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the historical ranges. Let's not look at that. That's just bad news. Okay, because it's from the beginning. And so obviously a money line is going to be all over the place. So typically when I live bet, I'm going to remove this historical range. I want to caution you. This is the exact same bet details core page as what we have for pregame betting. This is in no way optimized for live betting. This was just easy. So we got it in there because we knew there would be some times where you would want to look at the depth of the market. This was something we could do as a stopgap until we're able to fully design all of the live betting functionality that's coming. So it's going to continue to improve. This is still pretty darn powerful right now. Again, whenever you see purple, that's an arbitrage opportunity. When you see green, that's EV. You can still use it. Just don't rely on it quite the same way. So in this case, I got Pinnacle, Underdog, Profit X. These are books I can also These are the highest weighted, and then you see the increasing. So things like stakes, sport trade is a exchange, so that's another good one to think about from time to time. But you can see how the odds all break out here. Well, what you can see is that plus 302 to minus 268. If it didn't move, there you can see 302, 268, right? So those are the no vig lines, and that distance between them is our worst case devigging. So it's just that think of it as a margin of error, the margin of error between those two. So the key is that when you see these, and if you can say, well, we got a lot of books in the market here coming to those lines, and that looks pretty good. If I see really good prices headed in either direction, I'm going to be interested in that. Again, outliers to a whole bunch of things for something like the money line, you're going to do all right. And so when I see DraftKings as, pretty good price, Sport Trade would be even better. But, in this case, our synthetic hold of even the market I can play at isn't too bad, right? So this case, this is the no vig odds. This is the percentage likelihood of winning of this based on those no vig odds. The next is this is what we need to get based on this odds. So based on the price we're getting from DraftKings, this has to be 27% likelihood or better before this becomes a positive EV play, right? So keep in mind, the difference between 25 and 27% is not huge, right? If you're like, oh man, there's a 50% chance the Yankees are going to come back and win this game. Well, now you know which way you're leaning, right? Because this percentage is pretty small still. And that's the thing with live betting too. You're going to have bigger swings. You're going to have bigger edges. You're going to have bigger decisions. And sometimes these are splitting hairs and you say, well, I can just get the best price in the market. And right now it's at plus 270. Sometimes you'll be doing that depending on what your strategy is. Okay. Keep in mind, 25% here is what we actually expect it to be. Well, down here at Sport Trade, we're right in line, right? We're right in line here. Down here for Ladbrokes, we're actually doing better. 73% is what we're expecting. This is a good straight up play, right? So you could just make this Ladbrokes play, saying, all right, 69%, nice. I need to get above 73%. Now, you're going to be able to go and make that play. So again, looking at these percentages start to tell you where, depending on the nature of the game, depending on what else you're looking at, this is how we're starting to compare. We started to do these percentage likelihood of winnings or the break-even percentage. It's the same thing. We started to do that more with stats, and we're starting to fold that in more because that's the way a person really thinks. You don't actually think very well in no vig odds. Like a plus 302 doesn't naturally equate to exactly what it needs to be. You do some math and realize, oh, it's 25%, give or take. There you go. But you actually want to have a percentage to be thinking about. And then two, realizing that a human is not going to go to 1/10 of a percentage in terms of our understanding of what's actually likely. So we just round it to the nearest percentage because quite frankly, even that is something that a person can't really determine. Like, can you really tell the difference between 25% and 30%? Not that easily, right? So you might be able to, but not all the time. But 1% is plenty. You're not going to know the difference between 25 and 27%. All right, so you have, this is the one I can play at, this is the best in the market. And then all the way on the end, you'll see the EV only for the books that you can actually play at, because it would just create too much clutter otherwise. And we wanted these things to pop when you do have plays to be made. So that's why they're highlighted a little bit lighter. Again, just like everything we do here, everything in the live betting page is engineered and designed to approach your eyes with the right amount of pop. Your eyes are supposed to be drawn to certain parts of the screen very intentionally. This arb percentage is where you want to focus. You're going to be going through, and I literally program my button box so I can hit this refresh page as much as I want to. This will end up auto refreshing. Do not worry about that. But right now, it's just you have to hit apply or you have to hit refresh to do it. I'm hitting this all the time. I'm looking for interesting things. This game's moving. I mean, it's a baseball game, so it's not moving that fast, but it's moving. You can see these numbers change. That 5 down 2. Now it's up to 2%. Look at this stuff. Look how fast these change. We're streaming this information constantly, and all these numbers are updating in real time. So like this is when you hit that apply, it's going in fast. So what you're typically going to do is you're going to be targeting on the screen, and I'm using different sections of my screen. Everybody like makes fun of me because I have 7 different screens now in front of me, and so I can take things and take them into pieces of places on my screen and whatnot. But I have the details panel separate. I have this separate. I have the 3 or 4 books that keep coming up, like your DraftKings and sometimes Flip. FanDuel's a pretty common one. Caesar's a pretty common one. Those are the ones that you're constantly seeing these plays. And so I just have them up and I'm watching those. I'm watching my additional stats. I've got the game on another screen. And that's where I'm hitting this refresh button and I'm just looking. I'm looking at say, okay, what's interesting? Ooh, this 12%. Let's look at this. So I'll go in here and I say, oh, this line from Sport Trade's wild. Is that real? I don't know. I can't do anything about it right now anyway. I'm going to move on, right? So you can refresh that page. You can come back here. You can refresh again, okay? So now this is the other thing. So now we can come back up to these search and filter criteria, right? So if I want to see my plays only, let's hit that. So that's only going to show you lines where I have a book I can play at. So a lot of people will put that on. I will do that from now on. 2-line display, that just removes the second line. So if you only care about looking at books you can play at, you can remove that second line and makes everything a little bit more condensed. Fine. Minimum EV percentage for like, I don't want to have anything. I don't even want to see it. If the EV percentage, one of these, remember, is, worse than, minus 2%. So I can set a minus 2 here. And now, oh, you know what? I think it might be minus 2. Oh, you know what? It's because it's on this side. All right. So I'm like, wait a second. Do I need the percent? No, it's minus 2. You see here, I have a minus 0.86. So it's going to show me either side. So one, as long as there's something that's compelling, I won't really use the minimum EV percent, but I will use minimums on the playable ARB or even the market ARB percentage. So in these, I'm looking at, okay, give me anything that has positive market ARB, which means 0 synthetic hold in the market or better, which means these are opportunities, right? This is why I'm always about, show me when there's an arbitrage, because then I know there's negative hold in this market. There's something that could be done. Can I figure out what it is? Not always. But in this case, like you can see this. Look, you see an EV play with DraftKings. There's an arbitrage opportunity. Looks like a 1% EV. All the signs are kind of pointing in that right direction. I mean, I might wait 3 seconds and it'll probably be gone. But when I'm looking at this, like, this looks pretty good. 1.95% now. Refreshing it. Now it's growing 2.29%. We're getting a lot of, and this is a deep market. Look how deep this is. So you can see all of this. One thing that I do find myself using a lot down here too is this. So it's sometimes easier when you're really trying to make a play and seeing how deep the market is and how much variance there is. Sometimes looking at these numbers is a little bit better. And like, not naturally, these jump out as you very suspicious, right? All of a sudden. So, but that's the kind of thing, and it happens so fast. So this gives you a ton of information way beyond this number is bigger nonsense that you'll see at a lot of the other tools out there. This gives you some real ability to analyze both from a broad-based perspective where you can look at a whole bunch of different things at once and start to home in on those things that you find really interesting. Setting things like minimum weights, say I only want to see minimum weight of 10. I only want to see a market ARB of at least 1%. I want to see min-max odds. I would not mess with those. I would leave those alone most of the time. I'm going to sort by the market ARB percentage. All right, go. 27%, best in the market. Got a huge play here. Look at this, and so like you can start to go at these and see, all right, what do I do? Pretty soon we're going to have the arbitrage calculator. We're going to be able to show you exactly what you need to do to balance those two plays. All of this stuff is coming. So get excited, because this live betting, we really wanted to solve for, first and foremost, the speed and the data. We've got that coming in. We've got some tools for you to be able to see this stuff and use it now in a pretty effective way as football season gets going. We're going to add to that a lot more interactivity, a lot more visuals, a lot more automatic updates, a lot more portfolio management. So when you start to do a whole bunch of live bets, you're going to start to see, where am I? Like, what do I want to have happen? That should never be a question. We should be able to show you at any moment what would happen to you and your bets if X number hits on the total, or the spread ends at -8, or whatever it is. You should know immediately how that will impact your collection of bets on this game, live and pregame combined. And we're going to start giving you tools to manage that risk and manage that portfolio in ways nobody's even conceived of. We have all the designs ready. We're just building it right now. So get used to seeing the data, watching these games, and starting to develop some strategies on how you want to approach your live betting. There's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. And we have a whole bunch of different members doing different things already with live betting, and they've been waiting to get this in their hands and be able to deploy it in football season. So if you look at this stuff and you play around with it and you start to understand what's going on here, again, all these toggles and stuff, they work just like they do on the regular bet detail screen. This is still very useful, even though it wasn't really designed for the current purpose. It works pretty darn well. It's very useful when you're targeting a particular kind of bet and you're saying, okay, what do I need to do here to be ready when that next line comes up? Because that's something that is really powerful. Oh, I've added so many things here that they are all disappearing. So let's remove some of that. All right. And so now you can see it again. But anyway, but the key to this is you want to start to be thinking, okay, if this happens in the game, I'm going to do this if one thing happens, and I'm going to do this if the other thing happens. So you're just looking for your number. You're just saying, okay, if they make this field goal, what does that mean for the bets that I want to be making? It's going to have this kind of impact. I'm going to be targeting this kind of thing. Chaos is going to happen. I mean, it's like I compare, like, it's always messy in pregame betting. Anytime you're dealing with streaming data, which is what we're dealing with in pregame betting, even we're getting streaming odds feeds from 175, 180 different books now, and we're getting all of this information flowing constantly. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty messy in pregame betting alone. You try doing that in live betting, it's like betting in the middle of a tornado, right? It is crazy. It is chaos around you, and you're just trying to get through it. You're trying to find direction in this chaos that's swirling around you. And if you could start to slow it down and use these kinds of tools and start to key on certain things, then you'll be able to find order through that chaos, and you'll be able to find incredible opportunities in your sports betting. So that is really the key to this. And I am super pumped for football season. I'm so glad we have this ready. Again, this is all production. You can do it in the demo too. If you go to atrainstation.com, you can click, there's an orange button in the upper right hand part of the screen. You can start playing with the demo. The live betting isn't really supported in the demo, but you can see it, you can understand where it fits, and you can start to look at some of these other pages like the bet details, the event information, and all of that. So there's a lot that you can do with the demo. But obviously it has older data, so it doesn't quite work the same way as actual live betting. You're certainly not going to have the kind of flow of information that we see here. But for you A-Train Station members, this is going to be an enormous part of your fall. This is huge. This is really huge. And some of the features we're going to build on top of this architecture are going to blow you away, I promise. So with that, I think this is it on this one. So enjoy playing with it. Certainly reach out. Join that Discord. We've got a Discord, atraindiscord.com. You can join that Discord and people will help you with any questions that you have. I'm always on there. We do some of the live streaming. We do all the live streams on the Discord as well. Some special live streams only are on the Discord. And then if you want to join the members area, then there's additional members chats and all of that stuff as well. So we can certainly talk about that. But for this live betting, wanted to get you the video. I promised to get you the video. Here's the video. So thank you for sitting through the whole thing. And hopefully it taught you what you need to do to get running with the live betting functionality in A-Train Station. So until the next one, thanks everybody. We will see you soon. Take care.